I'm Yvette Freeman, publisher and founder of the ENVOY Guide, and I'm so happy to have as my first guest for this year, Karl Pierre Louis. He is a writer of reflection, tenderness, and moral clarity. His work, which is featured in his newsletter, Can I Ask, on Substack, explores identity, community, faith, fatherhood, and the quiet labor of becoming in a world that often rewards performance over truth. With intimate, grounded prose, he writes toward the parts of life that are difficult to name but deeply felt. His essays invite readers to slow down, look inward, and consider what it means to live with honesty, care, and intention. Through his writing, Karl hopes to offer something both steady and human. Karl is also the owner of Batir Consulting, a consulting company based in Hendersonville, North Carolina, that offers services that support career development, hiring practices, workplace culture, communication strategy, community engagement, and brand storytelling. He is currently featured in the new July-August 26th issue of the ENVOY Guide, not only as a featured entrepreneur, but also as one of our new contributing writers. And today I am honored to have Karl join me for this episode.
Hello, how are you?
That is a long intro.
Like I said, I feel taller than I really am.
Well, you are very accomplished in everything that you do. And thank you for joining me on this podcast. We have had a few conversations, and it has been great getting to know you better, getting to meet your wife and your daughter, Tegan, and being able to photograph you for the features. So thank you so much for being so hospitable and a lovely person to get to know and call a friend as well, too.
I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure getting to know you as well. I think you've been awesome.
Well, thank you. So besides everything that I mentioned in your bio, what else should we know about you?
I'm a person of the community. I love my community. I love the people in it. I appreciate being a community member here in Asheville and in Hendersonville. Um, I enjoy fatherhood very much. And I am not as tall as this screen looks.
Now, you mentioned fatherhood, and in your feature, you say that fatherhood has had a significant impact on who you are. Explain to us how fatherhood impacted you. How did it change you?
Man, how didn't it change me? Well, I think we want to start with, or I would like to start with, fatherhood has a way of reflecting how much work you haven't done within yourself as a man. And it also points out the things that you haven't recognized within yourself. So not only did it give me a lot of time to pause and really look at what I missed in my own life, but it gave me an opportunity to look at what I could work on as a father. Because as I am raising my daughter, I am also, in a sense, healing myself and how I see things and how things should be seen,
Mhm.
and giving myself that grace in the same way that I give her grace as she's growing into her own person.
Now, your daughter, Tegan, she's 8 years old, correct?
She is.
She is.
She is.
So she actually inspired some of the writings that you do, in particular, your children's book series.
So Harper Story is really just a series of books that I really wanted to kind of leave in her, like basically her legacy of how she grew up, certain moments, so that she could always look back on, and other girls of color could look at that and say, "Hey, um, there are simple stories that make up my life, whether that is learning to ride a bike, having a day around the home, having a day out, spending time with family, looking at photographs and realizing that these photographs are more than just memories, but they are building blocks to who she could be later on in life.
Now, how many books do you have in the series so far?
So far as five.
Five. Okay. Now, when did you start your first book?
I would say uh, I would say it would be like around March. I started,
This year
and it
or?
really this year, this
Oh,
year.
okay.
Oh yeah, I started working really hard. I've been thinking about it since the day she was born. I said I wanted to write books based just on her experiences. Um, but this particular year, I gave a lot of thought to it because I realized that she's 8 years old, going on 30. So I need to start documenting some of these things sooner than later. So I took the opportunity to start doing the spring. So it's been fun.
Now, what is her reaction to having books centered around her life?
It's not as exciting as you would think. So she's pretty happy about seeing it. Um, well, I think a good portion of realizing the things that you do for your children really has a lot more to do with you than with them, right? So in my excitement, you will see my excitement show up far more. Whereas she's like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. You should have
Now,
put a dog in it."
now, do you read them to her? Like, are they bedtime stories that you read to her, or do you just, whenever you have the want to sit down and just have time with her? How do you incorporate those?
So for each book, I have sat down and we read them as a family, right? Just to incorporate, hey, how does she feel about the story? Did I miss anything? Were there any typos to this life that I pointed out? So it was a great experience. Just hearing her feedback
Mhm.
and seeing her reaction, primarily around just the things that excite her the most when she's looking at certain things, whether that is our dogs being in the books or the color of the dress that she recognizes, um, or just certain details of seeing herself in something that is in that story, uh,
Mhm.
especially when she's, I would say, trying to reflect back and say, "Oh yeah, I remember that. It was really hot that day."
Yeah. Now,
Right.
do you illustrate the books yourself, or do you use software, or do you have a graphic designer?
So I use software. So it was pretty great. The software that I use is really using pictures that I've drew as well as real photographs
Oh,
and
okay.
combining the two. Yeah. So yeah, if you say anything about AI is very smart about combining certain things.
Oh, yeah. Now, you sell your books on Amazon. Are there any other places people can find your books?
Barnes and Noble.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
Barnes
there
and
are actually
Noble.
printed
Yeah.
books in the bookstore then too.
Right.
Great.
Right.
So besides the children's books, you also do your newsletter, which are your personal essays and things. Tell us what your essays are about. What inspires you to write about the different things that you're experiencing?
So, as far as can I ask, that newsletter is a direct reflection on how I'm growing, how I'm seeing things, and how the community that I'm in, I'm seeing, I'm experiencing from the point of view of being a father, being a black man in America, as well as being a person of Haitian descent, right? There's a lot of growth that comes into that. There's a lot of layers in experiencing manhood and adulthood and um, being a provider, being a professional in America. And I think there's a lot of things that we tend to avoid asking, and that's what really inspires me. Is to really write about the questions that we kind of don't let surface too much,
Yeah.
but they're sit there in the back of our mind, right? Things around nostalgia, things around professional experience, professional growth, things around what does it feel like when you experience failure? What does failure look like? Is that a real thing,
Mm.
right? So, and I think one of the interesting things about when I write um, is a lot of it is based on conversations that I've had with close friends, people I've met. Um, I mean, one writing I think you've even inspired when we talked about, the black male experience.
Oh,
What does that what does that look like,
yeah.
right? We've had conversations about the grift and the grift being real in a lot of organizations,
Yeah.
right? So,
Now, in your feature spotlight, you also mentioned challenges you face, especially as a Black man, and you're working in spaces where DEI, diversity, the words inclusion are considered a threat or they're
mhm.
misunderstood. How are you navigating those spaces?
It's a very hard space to navigate when words are being taken out of conversation, right? You can't say certain words. Even in your resume, you can't, really
Right.
show it the same way, or even in your LinkedIn profile, right?
Hmm.
So it's kind of a tough place to be in this time that we're living in, and it takes, I think, a level of bravery, in spite of what's happening around you, to still use those terms, right?
Yeah.
Because each time you use that term or a term or those terms, um, it's as if you are now taking something away from someplace else, right? When within all three words, you're trying to belong,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to show that belonging is okay. And it comes in all shapes and sizes,
Hmm.
right? But I think where we have come to be right now, um, in this country, is that we have fallen back into a place of fear, right? And
Yeah.
that fear takes away that freedom of speech, just because I think people do not want to confront it on a personal level,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So, policies are being rewritten, organizations are changing their language, grants are being written a little differently. Um, Even advertising that we see is done
Yeah.
a little different, avoiding key terms, words, language, um, just to have the appearance that everything is okay. But really, it is pushing a terrible narrative of colorblind, right? And if you are colorblind to what's happening around you, how can you ever have any kind of empathy for it?
Right. So, how is it changing how you go out and work with your clients when you're in these spaces and they're saying, oh, we don't want to talk about inclusion. We don't want to have programs or things that directly affect specific groups or target specific groups. Is that changing what you have to do when you're trying to help them improve their processes and their workflows?
So everything, inspired by a friend of mine, everything is about intentionality, right? So what's their intention and trying to avoid certain things, right?
Yeah.
My job as their consultant or as their uh, objective eye is to say, hey, what is your end goal, right? And if being a consultant, I think the bigger responsibility is having my hand in pushing a narrative that I don't agree with, right? So I think that's the difference of being a consultant, is that I have the agency to say, I'd rather not work with you if I see your end goal. It's
Mhm.
not going to really benefit the community,
Have you
right?
had to do that with one?
I've had had to do that. I've had to do that, unfortunately. Um, and it really gives you a certain sense of freedom,
Yeah.
right? Just because now the people that you work with or have the potential to work with know where you stand. And when you are existing in this community, where we're kind of experience a lot of grift, right? We're experiencing a lot of proximity, um, when it comes to
Yeah.
wealth and success. And it's like, as long as I'm near you, I'm okay, right? But I think it takes a lot of bravery to stand apart. I think it takes a lot of bravery to not feel like you do not have to be the main character. You don't have to be part of the
Yeah.
main narrative of this town or this city. It is okay to stand apart and at least exist in an agency that you could live with. And there are people who will join you. Um, and I'm inspired by a really good friend of mine that always reminds me you have to find your village,
Mhm.
right? You got to find your people,
Yeah.
right? And those people will not only support you, but they will have the same sense of integrity, the same sense of outlook that you do.
Yeah. Now, have you experienced anything in particular being here in Western North Carolina? Because we're both in the Hendersonville area. So,
Mhm.
and we kind of generally talked about just the way people are here. Are there any specific instances where you have felt where you weren't getting that acceptance or that having that ability to say, hey, this is not something that I want to be a part of?
So I would say this community is very loving, right? Um, but it's very traditional,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
So um, as much as there is love and good intention, right? Tradition and the way things have always been stops conversations from being had,
yeah,
right? So if it stops conversations, it also stops the ability to share in likeness. Um, it also stops the ability for, unfortunately, it stops the ability to connect.
yeah,
So that's why you tend to see in this Western North Carolina community, there are a lot of young people who move in and quickly move out,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, because they could sense that no one wants to have the conversation.
yeah.
People are kind of set in the ways as long as we avoid certain topics,
Mhm.
right? We are all great, just don't touch on these topics,
Yeah,
right? So we have the parks, we have the museums, we have the nonprofits. We have all this great renovation happening, right?
yeah,
This great growth, right? It's a great tourist area. Um, so why bring this level of quiet protest to it,
yeah.
right? And I think that's the disquieting struggle that we have right now is that people are negotiating the protest,
Mhm.
whether that is out loud or on a personal level
Mhm.
or within small groups.
Yeah,
We're negotiating that at all times.
yeah. Yeah, one thing that I have found, especially trying to market my businesses, the magazine, the photography, is there are a lot of clicks,
Hmm.
a lot of we need to talk to you 10 times before we even decide to work with you. But also a lot of having to prove yourself and your work, even though we may have the experience, the years experience, we have portfolio. We literally have to show our work
Hmm.
3 or 4 times before it's even being considered.
Hmm. Yeah,
Otherwise,
that's true.
it's like, oh, like if like when I tell people I publish a magazine, it's like, oh, okay, that's nice. But when I actually used to be able to print, I would take copies around and I'd have to show them, and then they were like, oh, well, you mean a real magazine? So there's this belief for some reason that unless you can show the quality of your work, it's not automatically believed to be high quality. Have you found that?
I have, and so there's two reasons I smile because I think about this because I've had this conversation many times with other consultants, right? I think what we're experiencing in Western North Carolina and a lot of places in this country is that we are having to qualify ourselves time and time again,
Hmm.
right? Yet in that qualification, it shows up in every conversation, right? So people are without knowing it, they rarely ask you questions about what inspires you.
Hmm.
How did you get here? But they're
Yeah,
qualifying questions to basically add value to you or take away value from you, right?
Yeah.
So I think being Black in this community is really trying to navigate how do you handle this really deep community that is based on relationships without having to always qualify yourself in every conversation,
Yeah. Now, how
right?
does this community differ from, because I think you said you moved here originally from Florida.
Right, right.
Is there a difference in how people relate to each other and how have you had to change how you relate to people here versus
I, th-
Florida?
I think so. I think so. I think when I moved to Asheville, one of the biggest things that I came to notice really quickly was this was a place of relationships. It's about who you know,
Yeah.
right? It's very much about who you know. It's very much about what organization do you associate with or in proximity of. Who do you fish with? What after hours do you attend? Where did I see you from?
Yeah.
Right. So it's very hard for you to really make an impact without someone else making that introduction for you.
Yeah.
Right. And coming from a place like a major area that has a diversity of people, like South Florida,
Hmm.
right? Um, where your impact is felt because there's so many different versions
Yeah.
of talent in South Florida,
Yeah.
and it's such a transient area. People
Yeah.
coming in and out all the time. Businesses coming up overnight,
Hmm.
right? Versus here in Western North Carolina, you cannot come up overnight.
Yeah. Definitely.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible, right? No matter how great your product is, no matter how great your service
Yeah.
shows up as, no matter what you bring to someone has to, who is native, has to introduce you and qualify that value. And I
And even
think that's,
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm, go ahead.
And there's no guarantee that you'll even get a response.
Right, right. So it's I think that's the other tier of it. Um, so you're not only fighting a certain level of native privilege, right?
Yeah.
But in a sense, you are fighting your color. You're fighting established norms
Hmm.
in this community, and you are fighting against the idea of what this city means,
Yeah.
right? So everybody is conforming to this idea. Everybody is buying into it, whether it is if you're driving a Subaru, hiking on the weekends. There is this thing that you are actively participating in the image of what this community looks like. Everything has what I've come to understand, especially in this time that we're living in, right? Everything has a message.
Yeah.
How you dress, what you do, who you associate with, where you work at, where you donate to,
Yeah.
right? It says something,
Yeah.
right? Um, and that that buying in by the way you look and by the way you behave and how you post and how
Yeah.
many pictures you're in throughout social media, it says I am part of the messaging of this community, right? Um, and I think it becomes very difficult when you notice that that messaging is not being addressed as harm in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Now, in your article that you wrote for the July August issue about nostalgia,
Hmm.
um, you talk about the idea that when people are reminiscing about themselves or their past, that it can, their perception of themselves and what really happened can be
Hmm.
clouded by their perception of what they think they wanted to happen or their perception of who they think they are. How did that
Right.
how did that come about as a topic for you? Was that from personal experience or just another conversation that you had? Because to me, when I read that, I was like, that is so true. Because
Mhm.
often when they are thinking about their past, they don't necessarily see themselves as the bad guy or the person who caused the problems that they are now facing and that they're not willing to look at realistically. So what was it that brought that topic to your mind?
In particular, so it's two things that brought that topic to mind. It was an ongoing conversation I was having with myself, uh, as far as how I'm growing, right? And a lot of that is in examining what looking back does to cause harm to the growth that I want to experience. Because I'm always, as a nostalgic person, remember that time? Oh, remember when we did this? Oh, remember how good it was? Oh man. And when you start realizing as you're getting older and experiencing a certain growth, and I think that's what nostalgia does in a lot of ways. It is a form of grieving,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you're constantly experiencing this level of grief of what life was and not is right now,
What you thought you wanted
right?
to be.
What you thought you wanted,
Mhm.
um, all the things that you had planned, all the expectations, um, and you forget in a lot of ways that where you are today came from your own neglect. It came from your own, practices of whether it's procrastination, association, lack of reading, job choices,
Mhm.
friendships.
Yeah.
You made certain choices, right? Now, certain choices that you made allowed a lot of great times to happen, but it also blinded you to the grief that you're feeling right now is because certain choices you made were not the best choices,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So it, I think what nostalgia robs you of is the opportunity to be accountable for what you could do differently today,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Well, I love that also in your article you mentioned that it also affects the collective perception that communities have of themselves as well. I
Mhm.
thought that was very, very insightful because a lot of people don't necessarily understand that everybody's perception of their community forms the overall perception of what the community is,
Right.
and how people live in it and how they want it to progress. Because if everybody comes in here and says, oh, well, we used to love when there were no businesses or not a lot of businesses or traffic. And so we don't want any new
Mhm.
business coming in. So that
Right.
affects the growth of the city and how fast it's going to grow too, or the community. So I think a lot of people will find your article very interesting in seeing how their perception of where they live is a reflection of maybe how the community sees itself overall too, in the actions that are being taken.
Right. I think nostalgia could do a lot of harm to a community. Because when you're looking back about all those good times and how things were great and there was less people, you also forget how segregated it was. You
Hmm.
also forget how hard it was to get jobs. You also forget how opportunities were very limited for people of color.
Hmm.
You also forget how the town really shut down um, and didn't give any room for growth. You also forget all the things that you're experiencing today, the festivals, the community, the freedom of choice
Yeah.
for you to choose and
Hmm.
create wasn't around.
Yeah.
It wasn't around at all. That it was dominated by a certain level of class,
Hmm.
right? It was dominated by a certain level of privilege,
Right.
right? Um, and I think it's about, again, having the ability to hold nostalgia accountable for what it was, not what it is,
Yeah.
right? Because um, how we remember things is really based on how we emotionally translated that moment,
Hmm.
right? And if we emotionally translated it with a level of trauma, then we never want to look back. If
Yeah.
we experience it with a level of joy, then we're sad that it went away,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's not the reality of it. That's just how we interpreted it from our experience, or by the experience of our parents who told us,
Hmm. Yeah.
"Hey, this was great. Oh, you kids don't remember this,"
Yeah.
and you forget, like, "Oh, I forgot. Mom was said this was great. Dad said this was awesome." But you forget that dad was out of work for 5 years.
Mm.
Mom took the bus everywhere she went. Dad had struggles with finding work.
Yeah.
Um, the community didn't have the resources. You forget all these things.
Well, it's kind of like too, and not to necessarily get into politics, but it's like the "Make America Great" slogans. Like, okay, when was America great for people of color, for Black people? Because if you're
Mhm,
looking at making America great, are you talking about the 1800s, 1900s, when there was slavery, when there were Jim Crow laws, when there was
mhm,
Reconstruction, all this stuff? Because I'm like, for Black people, America was never really great because we were never really considered full citizens.
mhm,
There was always discrimination, things like that. So, but you've got white people say, "Oh yeah, we need to make America great." Well, it's always been great for them. So that nostalgia is completely different depending on your skin color,
mhm.
you grew up, who your parents were, and what
Mhm.
privileges that you grew up with.
Right. And I love the fact that you said that because it brought up a thought to me. Nostalgia also robs justices from happening
Mm.
because it remains in this sense of injustice that we are here now instead of there. But we forget that we've always existed in this streamline of just
Mhm.
injustice,
Yeah.
right? This constant burden of becoming,
Yeah.
right? This and that I think that's the hard thing is this new generation is looking at, hey, where was the progress? Where is the progress?
Yeah.
Right? Um, and the older generation is saying, there was a lot of progress. There's Yet there still remains so much to be done.
Hmm.
And what we're fighting against right now is negotiating. Do we put the next foot forward, or do we remain standing still?
Yeah. Yeah. There needs,
Just out of fear.
yeah. Yeah. There needs to be some sort of coming together where you can say, yeah, we want to make America great, but make it great for everybody, remembering what
Right.
happened and say, okay, we know this happened. So how can we improve upon it to make sure that it doesn't happen again and that everybody can say that, yes, America is great.
Right. And I'm looking at it from the perspective of as a Haitian, right?
Hmm.
And as a citizen of this country, and as a black man, you're there are levels to it,
Yeah.
right? So for every room that I'm in, I am experiencing um a level of unsaid things,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um so it's very hard to see all of this. Um and in this again, it goes back to the what is inspiring a lot of this outlook is I'm experiencing all of this as a father.
Hmm.
So how do I speak to this to my daughter,
Right.
right?
And how do you prepare her for what you think may be coming too?
Right, right. How do you prepare a child? How do
Yeah.
you how do you develop a certain level of language that is both um, clear, compassionate, and very honest?
Mhm. But not alarming too, right?
Not alarming, right? Like, and I think that's the other piece of it too. In a lot of ways, is that we are rarely honest, but we always seek the truth. We're
Yeah.
rarely honest, right?
Yeah.
Um, so the truth is that we live in a very unjust world filled with um, racism, prejudices, and hateful and ignorant things, right? The honesty behind that is unfortunately we have made ourselves negotiators of that every day,
Mm.
whether it is in how we pursue successes, jobs, families, goals. We negotiate around it,
Yeah.
right? And it's still very much uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right? So that's the honesty behind it. We are participants in some level because we can't fix it right now,
Yeah.
right? We have no control over it. We're not the controlling party,
Right.
right? A lot of these things are structural. A lot of these things are systemic, and a lot of these things are reinforced by tradition,
Hmm. Right.
right? So whether that is traditions in faith organizations, whether that is traditions in work organizations, whether that is traditions in households, they do rob the conversation.
Yeah. What's next for yourself and for Batir Consulting?
I think for myself is I will continue to write. The biggest thing for me is I'm really excited about us working together, um, and what we could do as far as pushing the conversations forward,
Hmm.
whether that is on written paper or in conversations like this,
Yeah.
between us or with the community members. I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing what the next chapter of fatherhood takes me as I age a little bit. I don't have much hair to lose, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
As far as the consulting, um, I really want to just continue to partner with a lot of these nonprofits and a lot of these young organizations who are noticing that there are certain dynamics at play,
Hmm.
but are brave enough to not just negotiate existing around it, but are willing to uh, kind of stand still and ask the hard questions
Hmm.
and be brave enough to sit with those answers,
Yeah.
right?
And you
So,
work primarily, like you said, with nonprofits, with small business owners,
right.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Whether that is how you develop your brand, how do you show up for your community? What does that look like on screen with AI?
Mhm.
Um, how to keep the human in the next venture that we're getting into as far as the AI new world, um, and really how to keep it personable,
Mhm.
right? The whole part of any kind of business is the community that we serve. So, how does your communities serve uh, your business interests, and how do you serve that community in return?
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you?
You can check out my LinkedIn, my Instagram, as well as my Substack. It has all my contact information as far as direct email and phone number. But I think a large part of it is how you contact me is really through, seeing me in the community, having a conversation, because I'm around, right? Uh, and I think uh, if someone invites to say, "Hey, let's have a conversation," uh, then yeah, that's the start of it.
All right. So on Substack, it is the Can I Ask newsletter, and
Mhm.
it's Batir Consulting on Facebook, Instagram, all the
LinkedIn.
usual places, LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
all the information also will be in the Envoy Guide July August issue. Please go to theenvoyguide.com to subscribe. Thank you, Karl, for joining me today. It has been a pleasure, as usual, talking with you, and I look forward to working with you and talking with you again soon.
Thank you, Rhett. It's been a pleasure.